Good evening, all of you. This is again the online guest lecture series on soft skills to maximize your outcome. And I think we have heard from Dr. Vidyaa for the last 6 topics. She has spoken on different topics on maximizing your outcome as a soft skill training program. And today we have with us again Dr. Vidyaa to speak on the topic empathy. So this is our seventh lecture in this series of lectures on soft skills. So may I now invite Dr. Vidyaa to take over and then deliver a talk on empathy. Welcome, Dr. Vidyaa.
So thank you so much, Dr. Shankaran, for this kind introduction. And good evening, friends. And thank you, Dr. John, Dr. Selvaraj, and all my friends and the students who have gathered today. Today's topic is, as I tell you every time, when we talk about soft skills, it is not only related to professionalism, it is also related to the person you are. So there is generally a saying which says that there's so much of space for becoming a better person, right? And above them, you will have those CEOs and CFOs, and also maybe you will have only 1 or 2 people there, right? So just like that, to become a better version of yourself, there's so much space up. And when I mean up, I mean, above the ordinary people. And these soft skills definitely, has a very, very important role in that. And when I, think about the different topics we are actually putting in forth in of meaning, there is a lot of internal essence which I feel it is not just to be heard, but it is to be heard, understood, imbibed, and inculcated into our everyday activity. And then it becomes a habit of ours, and then it becomes a character trait. I mean, people will recognize you by that character, and then you become that person itself. You become an embodiment of that person itself. Suppose if it is love, you become an embodiment of love. You become an embodiment of compassion, an embodiment of empathy. So, it's very important. And, this topic, as I was preparing for this topic, I was just thinking, many people, we don't have the basic nuances about what we are talking today. So I'm sure at the end of this 1 hour session, you will all get a wider range of understanding of what empathy is all about. Okay. So without any further ado, I'm going to start today's presentation. And as always, such a beautiful invite has been made by Dr. Shankaran and his team. So I would like to thank the Institutional Development Plan of TANUVAS for inviting me once again for this awesome topic called empathy today. Even the leaves falling down was so melodious, right? It looked so beautiful, and love the music behind it also. So let's get back to the topic. Why do we need to be empathetic towards others? If you want, you can chat and you can put it on the chat box so that, we could look at it later. Many a times I find that it is only a hearing. There is no interaction between the chat box is there for you, and it is for you to first share what you know, and then after you learn, you draw a comparison of your knowledge which you've gained at the end of this session. So it's always better, whenever a question is posted, you use the chat box very wisely, and you put your thoughts in, and only then you will be able to imbibe what more I'm going to talk to you. So why do you need to be empathetic? Why do you think you need to be empathetic towards others? You can make a note of it in the chat box. And Are you actually being sympathetic, or are you becoming empathetic? Now, this is a very thin line which actually spreads or differentiates between the two. So let's just look at that also. So what is empathy? I'm sure with this beautiful collage of words, you would understand it is all within the heart, the way you feel and the way you share and the way you communicate with the opposite person, the way you understand the other person's needs, and just to tell that, I am there with you, I am there, along with you in this process, and I just want to make you feel better. So that is what an empathetic person would do. So what is empathy? If I have to define, it is the capacity to understand or feel what the other person is experiencing from within their frame of reference, which means putting ourselves in other people's shoes and looking at the situation from their point of view. And that is the capacity to place oneself in another's position. And what are the definitions of empathy? It basically compasses a broad range of emotional states. So we all have a lot of emotional states, and how is it that we are trying to understand each of these states and make a better version of ourselves? Let's just take some examples of empathy. Acknowledging people's pain. See, during the pandemic, many kinds of issues have been addressed. And look at those, when people talk to you might not be able to relate to it, because you might think, oh my God, that for that thing they are talking, and my problem is so big, or my challenge is so big. And, you try to just put down people, you think that is not, but that is not the way you handle it. So you need to first acknowledge the other person, what they are feeling, what they are trying to share with you. And the other person, must feel like, okay, I can open up to this person. This person is a person who's listening to me. And you probably show gratitude to that person that they've been able to open up to you, because it is a two-way communication. It is not a monologue. Empathetic feeling is when you say something and the other person says, and you're trying to be a little more understanding on the other person, and you should show interest. We spoke about body language long time before, and when you are sitting, when you actually lean forward, that means you're showing your interest. When you're like this and sitting, or just being a laid back thing, these are all body languages, which means like you're not interested to that. Or suddenly when somebody's talking to you, you look at somewhere else, you're not looking at them eye to eye. So that means you're not showing interest. So you should show interest. You should really lean forward and act as though you care. And act, when I mean is the act of caring, okay? And be very encouraging. See, when somebody is trying to say something, it might be a kind of, mentally they would be a little upset or depressed or whatever it is. So they are not in the best of their positive moods. So you can lighten up or brighten up their day. You can speak something nice, something genuinely nice, and encourage them. Be a kind of a motivating factor, and be very supportive. Always say that, I'm there always. It's all going to be fine. We're all going to get through it. Okay. We are all in this together. You're not alone. I am there with you. We can do it together. So these are the ways of being very responses. So let's understand the difference between empathy and sympathy, as I told you in the beginning. Now, what is empathy? Empathy means understanding through experience. Like if somebody is had a fall and fractured the feet, and then they are just walking, and you just understand or imagine if you had fallen, how you would feel, and you're trying to share your feelings with that person. Whereas sympathy means you are just feeling sad. It's a feeling of being upset along with them. So that's what it means. And sympathy is feeling for, whereas empathy is feeling with. That's the difference. And if you looked at, while the differences feels really narrow, it is very crucial. Empathy focuses on a mutual and a shared kind of an emotional experience, whereas sympathy moves more swiftly from feeling with to feeling for. You understand? So we have to understand that we need empathy towards again. If I have to give you some examples, empathy means you say, like, I know exactly how you feel. Maybe I felt the same thing when I went through a challenge like that. Whereas sympathy means, you just say, oh, I'm sorry, I heard the bad news, so whatever it is. You just want to be there. But look at this person who's empathetical. They are handing out a kerchief to this person who's crying. So there is an act of, compassion. You're trying to extend yourself a little more and understand the other person. So as Megha said, empathy versus sympathy. Empathy is the ability to experience the feeling of another person. It goes beyond sympathy, which is just caring and understanding for the suffering of others. Both words are used similarly and often interchangeably, but differ subtly in their emotional meaning. Okay. And again, when we look at empathy versus compassion, empathy means a feeling for someone. I understand what you're going through. I've been there. These are the it is feeling for someone, plus there is a desire to help. You want to, lift them up. That is compassion. So you say, I can understand your distress and I want to help. Or how is it that you can help? And today we are going to really give you some examples of that. So let's see how this emotions move from feeling pity. I acknowledge your suffering. That is just being pity. And sympathy means I care about your suffering. It's a little shade better than just being, showing pity. And then empathy means I can feel your suffering. There's a lot of emotions attached to it. And compassion means, along with the feeling, as I told you, you want to help that person. You want to do something for that person. So you're asking them, I want to relieve of your suffering. What can I do? Or how can I do? That is the kind of person you become. Now, as I told you, with empathy, we have identification of the empathy, emotional contagion, true empathy, theory of the mind, perspective talking, all these also. So empathy is more than a mindset. It's a learned skill. So it is not like you don't know how to become empathetical. You can, you just learn it over a period of time. You observe how people are doing, maybe your seniors are, and then you learn from that, especially for the veterinary students. I would just say, like, you are working with the animals probably who can't express themselves in terms of words. They do express themselves, and but they don't have words to share. So it is more important that you're more caring towards those animals. And all of us have to make a kind of a balance in the ecosystem. So it's very important when we think about that. Empathy is a superpower. How anyone can learn to use empathy to improve relationships and influence people. Now, why are we talking about all these soft skills? Because many a time grades front, many layak the soft skills. In fact, there is a very senior professor who is retired from the veterinary college. Her name is Dr. Asha Rajni, and she was telling, they were trying to get all these soft skill courses way back, some 20 years back, into TANUVAS. And as I was just talking to her, she was so happy. And she said, this is like a dream come true. I'm so glad, Vidya, you're doing it. So there have been people who have really put their heart and soul to understand that there are certain black spots within upbringing of a person. And when we are doctors, we need to have a genuine kind of an empathy towards all the patients who are coming, and with our fellow people also, because we need to interact with a lot of people. And when you think about your association and things like that, you want to have or maintain a better relationships with people. For example, I'm just telling about Probably there are about 40 to 100 students in your class, and then you have 4 years seniors, and then when you become a house surgeon, you will have 4 years junior. So you might know about, say, if there are 100 per batch, you will know about 1,000 students by the time you complete your course. But is that enough? No. Now you have another from Namakkal, you have other areas where you have your students, and the more you interact with them, then imagine the national front, then the international front. So when you are empathetical, that becomes a superpower, and that power will help you have a better relationship and also influence people. As I told you, it will become your character trait, and people will recognize you as being very empathetical, right? So empathy, now what is exactly that? You can see it with your eyes. The way you look at people, they will know you are really feeling for them. They appreciate them as human beings, communicate, listen, and understand their internal well-being, understand emotions and feelings. And empathy map says, like, for the user, you can say, you can think, you can do, and you can feel, and all together you have a kind of a map in your mind where it works. So empathy is seeing with the eyes, but you're looking at it from their point of view. You're listening with your ears, but again, wanting to listen to what their view of the same situation is, and feeling from your heart, again, as how they would feel. So it is all from their point of view. So what is empathy? As I told you, you can divide it into three. Effective empathy, which is the ability to respond to other people's emotions appropriately. Somatic empathy is the ability to feel what other person is feeling. And cognitive empathy is the ability to understand someone's response to a situation. So that's very important, to know how to interact, or probably, respond rather than to react to a situation. So how do you show? Are we talking all this? Because we want to communicate with the entire world. We as an individual, we must put our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and then bring out in ways of communication. So how is that? You have to become an active listener. You must be customer focused. It is not, your focus is not on you, focus is on others. You should be mindful, and I will be talking about each of these points. You should be thoughtful also, and you must have great observational skills. So this is how you show empathy in communication. So let's start with active listening. Now, many a times I have often heard, when a woman, or let's take an example of a husband and a wife, when the wife is trying to talk something, the husband, they just say yes, and they say yes for what, they also don't know, and there's this program to say yes, right? So what happens is, after some time, you know that that person is not really listening to you, and then that is when the anger comes between very close individuals, like a husband and a wife, between friends. When somebody is trying to share something, it is also very important for us to be actively listening. So it is between friends. It could be between a senior and a junior. So this active listening is something so very important. So how do you actually start to actively listen to people? You don't listen to respond, but you listen to understand the other person. So that's the first thing you should understand, right? And you listen to get the feeling what the other person is feeling from within. And you should see their body language along with your body language. I just told you, you move or lean forward, be very concentrating, look at their eyes, look at their body, and then you talk. And then you have a paraphrasing, which means if they are saying something, you're trying to repeat it, you're trying to reiterate that, yes, I'm listening. I'm not, my mind is not outside. I am putting a very attentive ear to what you're trying to tell me. And it is about self-awareness. It's about reflection. Probably it is also about tactical questioning to that person. so that they can open up more and more. And that is how, as a counselor, we work when we are trying to literally listen to the other person and ask them the exact questions so that we can get the proper answers. It's a clarifying technique, and then you summarize the whole thing, and then you respond to them. So the active listening skills helps us to build trust and establish a kind of a rapport. As I told you, even with your feet, you have, when there are only two people talking, so you can put your feet straight. But then if there is a third person, you try to turn your body so that you've included that person in that space of conversation. Very important. So, that just gives you a kind of a trust in each other. And it also demonstrates concern when you're trying to just gently put a hand on the shoulder. You just want to say that, yes, I'm there with you. Ask me. And then you can ask some specific questions. Ask not to probe. Because some people can get withdrawn within themselves when you keep asking too many questions. It should not be like a kind of a questionnaire round. It should be more like, you just say something and then they're ready to vomit whatever is there in their mind. That is very important. And active listening techniques basically help you understand what the other person is saying, maybe not only through words, but also through their body language, through their face, through their eyes and everything. And you say, oh, yeah, okay, I see. And these are the words you would be saying when you're actively listening. As Brain Brown said, empathy is simply listening. That means you're actually attentively listening. It is holding space, and you're withholding judgment. You're not trying to say that is wrong, this is wrong, that person was wrong, nothing like that. You're emotionally connecting and communicating of that you are not alone. The other person is not alone. You are there with that person. And that is how you are trying to share your mind space with them. So first, let us understand the customer focus. Customer focus is the strategy that puts customers at the center of the business decision making. And customer focused businesses means it makes decisions based on whose decisions impact customers, as opposed to focusing only on the profit. Like generally, when people start talking, they are only looking at the results which comes to. They're not looking at the process, how to get the results. But customer focus means shifting a little from the result and focusing on how the person feels. The result will come. The final result will come. This might be a long-term process, but it is a process which develops the kind of a loyalty and builds a trust. That person will open up completely to you and give you entire kind of a feeling of whatever it is. We are trying to say that, the customer is the king. I'm sure you all must have heard about the famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi ji, right? So customer is the king, and that's what they put in many showrooms. So you should always keep the other person happy. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And then serve with a smile. So whenever you're serving, even if it's for your patients or any people, you serve with a smile. A smile is something which can break barriers. It can really find out whether you are approachable person, and how people are kind of comfortable in your arena. That is very important. And they also are looking for satisfaction. See, if you're planning to just make one-time money, it's something different. But here we are not only talking about quality of work, the service which we are delivering, but also the kind of a relatability and the reliability. Both are important. People should be able to relate to you, and only then they will have a kind of a mental satisfaction with you. And then there'll be better retention. And once you have better retention, you have a great customer service, right? So don't you think even food joints today, right? They ask you for your name, then they ask you for your birthday, ask if you're married, they ask you for your wedding anniversary, and they call you on your birthday and say, happy birthday. And then they say, are you willing to dine with us today? Can I book a kind of a table for you? And that makes you feel very special, because okay, their end result is that you are going to go and they're going to earn money out of this call. But when that feels very genuine to you, then you feel like, you want to go, and you might as well go to that restaurant who is ready to give you that service, rather than go to another restaurant where you have to stay and wait till your turn comes, right? So this is the kind of focusing not on the result, but on the basic pathway of how to make a person feel very important and comfortable. And of course, a timely response. This is very important. In the further slides, I'll be talking to you a little more about that. You should be, very focused time of your mind. I will tell you more about that later. Next is mindfulness. Now, when I look at mindfulness, it's a very important thing. I guess many of you are attending to this session right now. Now, mindfulness means this 1 hour you are with me, you're traveling with me, right? And you're listening, you're processing in your mind, you're taking down notes, and this is because you want to become a better version of yourself. And this is very important. Many a times, our mind wanders, and it wanders to many directions. Now, when I say many direction, I really mean it, because your mind is just an open box, right? And whenever we are talking or something, suddenly your mind is thinking something else, then another thing, then some connection, and then it goes away, and then you're not in the present moment. There is a very beautiful picture. I'm sure you must have seen it, made a few rounds on and when very old lady, she'll be just looking at that and enjoying the moment, whereas the others would have taken the shutter bugs and the cameras, and they're clicking. They're losing the essence of being mindful and understanding that. I always feel that whenever we go for any hill station or something, okay, you can take a picture of the mountain and everything, but will you be able to feel that air back when you see that picture? Not really, right? So there is so much more that your eyes can imbibe, your mind can feel, your heart can feel, and that should be what mindfulness is all about. So practicing mindfulness means whatever you're doing, do it 100% with 100% attention to that. Many a times when people eat food, they are watching their cell phone, or things like that, or that is not the way you do. When you're eating, you're totally concentrating on your food, and you're mindful about your food, are behind that and thanking it. So that is very important. Many people practice mindfulness nowadays. The reason, because there is a lot of kind of a clutter on the brain, agitation, kind of a stressed kind of an effort. So to practice mindfulness, it is just like being here, being at the moment. You're not thinking about what happened in the past. You're not thinking what is going to happen in the future. You're just being at the moment. So how do you do that? You have breathing methods. I shared a lot of sessions on that. You have guided imaginary, wherein you're thinking. Now, for example, like I told you, the hill station. Now, if I think about going to Uti or Padai right now, can I go? Not possible, right? Because of the corona. So now I'm just thinking about, oh, that was a beautiful trip when I went to Padai. This is how we went. This is the place I stopped. Look at the places I saw. And I'm just trying to close my eyes, and I'm trying to picture that entire perfect scene of what all. And then the other practices, which just helps you to relax your body and the mind and helps you reduce stress. It's so very important, especially in these times. And when you talk about mindfulness, we are trying to talk about, having a kind of a childlike wonder. You are like a child. You're just trying to, everything wows you. You're feeling so happy about it. It improves your quality of sleep. You make, you're able to feel better and do better. It's a supports working memory. It makes you feel very nice and think in a much better way. And it boosts your immunity. And we are all talking about boosting immunity right now. So when you practice mindfulness, it happens. And it also helps you get relieved of any chronic pain. And it improves relationship satisfaction. When you're with your children, for example, let's just take an example of a child. When you're playing with your child, you're 100% involved with the child, playing with them. You're not at that time thinking about the office. Now, when you're in the office working, you're not thinking. Give you in mindfulness is how children behave. See, when the children are with you, you feel that they are totally dependent on you. Now imagine for 2 days you want to leave your child at your parents' place, and the initial time when you're going, leaving, and coming, the child is crying and all that stuff. And after that, after a day, when you call your mom or dad and ask them if that the child is troubling, and say no. Did he ask for me? They say no. So that's what the child practices. They practice mindfulness. They, at that particular moment, they are there. Great. Now after 2 days, you brought them home, right? And now the grandmom and the granddad are missing the child. So they are calling and asking, where is the child? Oh, he's playing. Grandma's calling, he's playing. He is with his toys. He's not bothered about anything. So now the grandma is feeling sad. Oh, 2 days he was with me, everything was fine, and now he's not there. So that is what is mindfulness. The child at with their parents, you're enjoying. If they're with the grandpa, you're enjoying. So we need to learn to practice that. Many a times, we whatever we have in hand, we just leave it. We're thinking about the old days or the future days, which is going to come. So both is useless. And mindfulness also reduces stress, and it bolsters cognitive flexibility. It may help in reducing your blood pressure. Many a time studies have shown it helps. It decreases emotional reactivity, which means that irritatedness within the mind, and the kind of spurt of language what people do. So that will not be there, the verbal diarrhea, right? And then it also increases your empathy. Next is thoughtfulness. This is what I said I will tell you later, right? So many a times I sit and do this. I think you can also start doing this. Every day morning, I write down 5 people whom I want to just spend some time today. Spending time does not mean going meeting them in this scenario, but then chatting with them over a long chat, or going through a Zoom call, or just having a kind of a friendly meet. That is very important, and you should do it in a very kind of a different way. For example, many a times this time, whenever we were in the pandemic, in the initial phase, the phase 1, what did you notice? You notice if somebody was sick, the neighbor cooked food and gave, even without asking, right? So these are purposeful acts of kindness. People are going out of the way to be kind so that they can help another person. So you can be thoughtful in various different ways. Here are just the things which is written by one person. So imagine, like, somebody is a little sad, or they've had a bad day, or nothing is going right. You could just call them up or text them, or find out, how are you? Are things fine? Do you need anything? How about going out for a cup of coffee, or let's have some ice cream together? Something doing it out of your you want to do it for them. And suppose if somebody is sick, many a times you will see the women, they would cook something extra, and then they'll go and send it across to them. So this is very important. Giving presents, giving some kind of small gifts, which could just brighten up somebody. Sending somebody some a bouquet of flowers, and probably if somebody is lonely, including them in a game, or including them in a kind of a fun activity. And sometimes you just call up, to cheer the person up, and I know right now we are all, online kinds, but if you're offline, it's just like, hugging somebody and just making them feel nice or making yourself feel nice because of the hug. So works either way. So you can write down 5 people whom you want to do something nice today. And you can also do it for people who can never give it back. Now on Facebook and Insta and all, there are a lot of stories like that, right? So a man just walks and goes in a car, sees some rag picker and says, how can I brighten up your day? So they say, buy us food or something like that. And they go buy food and give it to them. Again, a week later, they come and then they do something else. And these random acts of kindness, you should do it just randomly to anybody, to people whom you don't know, just because, it will give you a kind of a self-satisfaction that you've done something good today. And empathy is a strange but powerful thing. There is no script to it. There is nothing like these are the things you have to do, nothing like that. There is no right way or wrong way either. It is simply listening, as I told you, holding space without being judgmental and emotionally connecting, and just saying that, you're not alone in this. We are there in this together. Next is the observational skills. So when we talk about observational skills, you are trying to see, you're trying to, understand the. Many a times this happens, especially in a dead, when somebody is dead and you go to a place, you immediately don't start talking, right? You just see people, you see how they are behaving, and how do you want to react in that situation or respond in that situation. So you're trying to actually learn or understand that arena, and then it gives you a kind of a more clarity or focus on what you're doing. And it also gives you a kind of a decision making skill, and makes you more aware of the situation and promotes a greater accuracy of how you want to take things forward. So empathy can be of 3 types. One is the compassionate empathy, when feeling with someone and taking supportive action if needed is done. Next is the cognitive empathy. It is a perspective taking on the intellectual level, and the emotional empathy is how a person is feeling. So it's all about emotions, right? So empathy can be. So people with high emotional intelligence will accept self and others, can communicate very assertively and display a kind of an empathy. Whereas people who are of the low emotional intelligence, it is not about accepting to self or others. They use a very kind of an aggressive or they throw themselves on people. That's what they use, very passive and aggressive, and they lack empathy. So as Barbara said, empathy is really the opposite of being spiritually mean. Okay. So if somebody is very mean, that means they lack empathy. It's the opposite of it. It's the capacity to understand that every war is not both won and lost, and that someone else's pain is as meaningful as your own. So if somebody is being happy seeing you sad, that means it's just sadism, right? It's a wrong way of an emotion. So here, if somebody else is sad, you are sad along with them, and that draws a kind of a connect. Collaboration, creativity, feeling safe and emotionally connection, and identifying the needs. So what is negotiation? Negotiation means you agree on a certain point. You're trying to exhibit skills, you're trying to communicate, and you're trying out the different strategies to work on it. And then you're trying to fix a contract. You have a collaboration, a kind of a working partnership you're trying to do. And then you're very goal focused. You're working towards a kind of an area where you want to move forward. And what is collaboration? Collaboration is like, you're trying to exchange of ideas, so that your idea, his idea becomes our idea. It's the kind of best of both worlds. That's what it is. And it is a lot of teamwork going on. You're trying to get like-minded people together, and then you're trying to put up a better, bigger show. And you can ask for assistance. There are a lot of success parameters. Many new inspirational ideas crop up. There's a lot of trust in between. Next is creativity. We spoke about this last time. We said, the lateral thinking. You're thinking about, just away from the usual mundane ways of thinking. You're thinking out of the box. That's what they say. And you can think about innovations and ideas. It could be a kind of a vision which you have, or it could be an imagination what you're doing. And mostly all these are very inspirational, because you're thinking about something which the other person has not thought about. So definitely in a few years time, maybe it will be leading to some kind of an innovation or not. Next is feeling very safe. So I'm sure all of us deserve to feel safe. Do you agree or not? This kind of an insecure feeling gives you a kind of instability within your mind. So that's also important. So feeling safe, stable, and secure is very, very, very important. You need to feel this to be emotionally strong with. So when you see two people, if they are not emotionally connected, they are not attracted towards each other. There's a lot of verbal dialogue which is very negative in nature, and then the facial expression itself will be negative, and they are not responsive. However, if they are emotionally connected, you don't even have to touch each other or hold each other, or even talk. You would see a person who's in love even from the end of the room, just by the mere look of that person. There is a lot of body language, and they feel immensely attracted towards each other. There's a kind of a positive facial expression. The voice also, communication is very positive, and they're very responsive. So there's a kind of a very positive recharged effect, especially when you're emotionally connected. Next is identifying your needs. Now, when you think about your needs, you have 6 different needs. You have physical needs, you have spiritual needs, you have social needs, emotional needs, intellectual needs, and the safety needs. And what we want. So what is a need? Needs are necessities or essential, whereas wants is just a desire. Needs are essential for survival, whereas wants is just not essential for survival. Needs is which does not change over time, but then wants do change over time. I'm sure all of us agree. Today the cinema theaters are opening, but was it a need or a want? Now you understand, right? What you need is probably your provisions, probably things which are so essential for your everyday life. And non-fulfillment can lead to adverse outcomes, because this is the basic core what these people need. Whereas wants is non-fulfillment may result in just mental distress. They'll just be a little upset over it. And all individuals have the same basic needs. They say roti, kapda, makan, right? So it's food to eat, it's clothes to wear, and it's shelter. It's a basic need, whereas want may differ according to different individuals. So what is, but it is empathy. That's what Mehmet said. And if you have a lack of empathy, it's basically more genetical environment, the way you have grown up. Many abusive marriages, the children born out of abusive marriages, they lack empathy, and that's how they go into drugs or any other kind of illicit activities. And then a disease, again, you will have lack of empathy, and then trauma. And the 4 types of leaders, you have the low cognitive empathy and the low affective empathy. They would be more of managers than a leader. If you have a high affective empathy, you'll be a friendly colleague or a leader. And if it's a cognitive and high cognitive emotions with empathy, then you will have an inspirational or an effective leader. And if you have the high cognitive and high affective empathy, then you will be an emotional leader.
Another?
So,
Another? Meet.
so Barack Obama, in one of his sayings, he somebody else's shoes to see through their eyes. That's how peace begins. And it's up to you to make that happen. Empathy is a quality of the character that can change the world. And with that, I come to the end of today's presentation, my dear friends. My name is Dr. Vidyaa, and my number is 9840176088. And thank you so much for this opportunity.